start learning. And I was I was incredibly curious about a lot, but I was not disciplined to really do much with that curiosity. It was just the curiosity was in control of itself, and it was its own discipline, versus putting a discipline to it so that I can gain more by taking a very strategic and structured way of letting my curiosity guide my learning. So first it started off, and I told myself, this is a lot of information. Last time I really had to go through such a demanding position on learning was school, and I didn't have the best experience and learning style from school because I didn't have my curiosity attached to too much. The teachers could not give me the kind of attention that I personally needed to be excited about the information they were trying to get me to learn. Not faulting them, I just was not a very good group learner in that way. The way they did it, it was more boring and not so engaging for me. Well, I was introduced to something that actually had a lot of curiosity for me, but I didn't have much discipline. Actually, I had no discipline when it came to structuring and strategizing my learning processes. I was kind of just feral in the way that I did it. Which I did do it, I just didn't do it in a way that was teachable or scalable into a more successful life. It was a fundamental and foundational value. So now, what in the world is going on here? Now, as far as the learning ability there, I started off with 1 hour a day. So I gave myself, and I said 1 hour a day I'll learn, and that's it. But I'm not going to allow myself, if I don't do an hour a day, then there's going to be some sort of discipline or punishment for that, which was removing something else that I used at the time, like maybe watching television, which is actually one of the first things that I cut out, or restricting how much music I can listen to, because at that time I still listened with purpose, but I didn't listen with, I listened with curiosity that gave me things, like the song from Tim McGraw and Nelly over and over. If you don't read the lyrics and then listen to the song, you don't really understand what it's about. And most people demonstrated that because the way they behaved when that song came on. But that was the kind of curiosity that I had at that time. It's just like, do it like that. So as far as I need to move over here, and I'm not being given much of a privilege for it. So that thinking process led into, I started that into doing it more frequently. After I gave that as a setup, and I'm like, you know what, I'll do this moving forward. And then after I did it it was one day, I moved into pushing it to 3 hours, because of like, wow, I really like this subject. I really like what I'm learning. So I moved it up to 3 hours. That only lasted a couple of days at 3 hours. Then I'm like, I really want more. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to work for myself, and at this time I was, my own employer at the time. It's whenever it was another venture that I went into. Not my first. I've been in business for myself a couple of times, but I was back into business for myself at this time. But this time going in with a better desire to be prepared. Learn on the front end, not from the experience of failure on the back end, as the sole parameter. So I added in the front end learning as well, where you're reading books, and you're taking lessons, or you're signing up for things to learn, whatever, for business. So I moved from the 3 hours to making it an occupation time. So from the time that I gave myself very early on, I said, well, I'm going to put myself on a similar work schedule with learning. Anytime I'm not with somebody, I need to learn. So I did the 9 to 5 approach, if you will. But what I did is I said 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 a.m., 6 p.m. I am to learn this entire time. There is no options around it. That is exactly what I'm doing. If I'm not, it's because I'm with a client. That's it. And I took to that very easily. And very successfully I took to it. To the point that only lasted for a little while before it turned into, now I'm going to, just any of my waking time, I want to learn something. I want to do that. Instead of watching mindless television or, purposeless music, I was really wanting to learn. So that's how it built into this discipline, where now it's, I'm just always looking at what's the opportunities and availability of learning and developing. And the other thing is that I really enjoy it. It's not something that's discipline You were very